My name is Veera Swamy. I have been a follower of Patriji's teachings for the last 15 plus years, and Pyramid Meditation channel wanted to understand from me how my experiences in my workspace can benefit the followers of the meditation. So before that, let me give a brief introduction of my career so far. My career started off as a probationary officer in Indian Overseas Bank, and I was with Indian Overseas Bank for 11 years, being a retail banking manager and also as a software programmer for the banking products. Then I moved on to Saudi Arabia, and I was there for 8 years, being an IT oriented person. Then I was in Bombay as a vice president for Citibank for 3 years. Then I returned to my native place, Visakhapatnam, which is also known as Vizag, and I was with HSBC, which is a multinational bank, and last 15 years I was with them as a assistant vice president, and I retired in February this year, having attained 60 years of age. And I can say in the last 15 plus years, I immensely benefited from implementing the whatever themes I understood through meditation, pranayama, and whatever other things, and it benefited me in my workspace while I was working with a lot of peers, colleagues, and team players as well. So let me tell you how it can benefit you as well, because a lot of people, while they may be with meditation, they may be with pranayama, still they may be facing a lot of challenges in the workspace, and which can lead them into some kind of stress, strain, depression, anxiety, frustration, fear, right? Lots of those things can keep happening to a lot of people in the current software industry, BPO, call center. So this kind of industries have, these are the what you call the occupational hazards for the employees in those organizations, right? And quite a few people without, I don't say quite a few, but some people without the knowledge of meditation and pranayama and such practices also, they can be dealing with their job very well. They are the fortunate few, right? Because they are born with that kind of qualities, being able to deal with those things. However, if you are with meditation and pranayama and such practices, you will be better positioned than the rest of the people to deal with those things, right? So what is happening basically in meditation is you are trying to look at your thoughts. You are basically with your the breathing, and as thoughts come to you, cut them off and then focus on your breathing. So as you are able to focus on your breathing, the mind settles down, and it doesn't become a breeding ground for lots of challenging thoughts for you, right? They may have some value, they may not have some value also, but at the end of the day, because of the calm mind during the meditation, the mind remains quiet, and the effect of that meditation remains for maybe next 15 minutes, half an hour, 1 hour or so, right? And during that time, you are tranquil, you are calm, you are cool, and whatever you are doing with during that time, right, you will be giving your best to it because your mind is not disturbed by a lot of thoughts, right? However, the purpose of meditation is to remain with a meditative state of mind for the rest of the day during your waking time, right? Maybe until maybe 10 p.m. in the evening or whatever kind of thing. Morning you may be sitting in meditation for 30 minutes or 1 hour, but the very purpose of that 30 minutes or 1 hour slot in meditation is to make sure that you continue with the tranquil mind for the rest of the day. So you can be really right, the work on your tasks and jobs and deal with your people in the office or with people at home or on the street, right, in a very calm mind. But for quite a few people, that may not be really happening that way, because many of us, if not a lot of us, we think that the meditation is for that particular duration of half an hour or 1 hour. But we are supposed to carry that kind of awareness or alertness during the meditation. You are aware of your thoughts, you are cutting the thoughts and coming back to your breathing, and you are not giving any kind of strength to those thoughts, right? most of the time the thoughts are disturbing thoughts, because the thought is not supposed to be worked upon during your meditation. However, it still comes to you, right? So we have to keep in mind that the purpose of your meditation is to carry that meditative state of mind for the rest of the day. So how can you do that? Um, the one way to do it is to make sure that you are able to watch the thoughts as they cross your mind, right? The thought may be about your boss. The boss being a difficult boss, you have to have a discussion with him maybe later in the day, and there can be a difficult time for you because something that is entrusted to you have not yet taken care of it, or the boss himself may be a wretched person, right? Not a good guy to work with. So however much you may be good, he may still be giving you a tough time, right? Or the thought may be about something which is boiling at home. You have to attend to it, but you are not able to conclude it favorably to all the stakeholders, all right, at that point in time. So similarly, there can be a lot of thoughts crossing your mind, and unless you watch them, like the way you would have watched a thought during your meditation and come back to the flow of your breath, right, you will not be able to overcome those things. So that's the very purpose of your meditation. But however, the question can be like, okay, I was sitting in the meditation, a thought comes to me about my boss. It is easy for me to cut that thought off during meditation, because I will not be able to do anything about that thought during that half an hour, 1 hour of meditation. So I was able to cut it off and come back to my breath. But however, when I am sitting in office, the thought is very real-time thought. How do I deal with my boss in the afternoon meeting, right? So that kind of thing, you cannot cut it off and come back to your breath, because you have to deal with your boss in the afternoon. What do you do about it? So this is where the practical application of the spiritual knowledge has to be put into practice, right? So what does spirituality tell you? And the spirituality tells you that everyone is same as you, right? He is not supposed to be an enemy for you, or you are not supposed to be an enemy for others, right? You have to deal with that person like the way you deal with one of your very close, affectionate family members. Just imagine if the boss were if your father is supposed to be your boss, right? It's not very uncommon that you find nowadays the father and son working in the same office also. All right. So if the boss is your father, and if you have to meet with your boss, having to deal with a situation, how do you feel? First of all, you will not be frightened, right? Because you love your father. Of course, he happened to be your boss, so you have no fear about him to start with. Or if you have to deal with your subordinate, you don't want to be cruel to him if he is your younger brother. How do you deal with him? Given that he would have done something wrong, but you will still tell him, okay, okay, my dear friend, you don't have to worry about it. You take some more time. It's all right. People keep coming across this kind of situations. So you deal with him like the way you will deal with a very affectionate brother. But what is happening in our office is we see people differently from others, right? As if you don't have to take care of him. That is the reason why you pit yourself against your boss or against your team member or some competitor, and you try to deal with that situation. There is no love between you and the other person. You don't create that love. There are no good vibrations or the vibes between you and the other person. So unless you realize that you have to take care of the other person also, like for example your boss or your subordinate or your competitor, you cannot be in a situation where it can be a very harmonious relationship, be it a discussion or be it a piece of work to be completed by you or the other person. It cannot happen. So meditation is not just about keeping your mind tranquil. It is also giving the due respect and due regard to the other person as well. In my own experience, I dealt with a lot of very tough bosses, very inconsiderate peers, right, with whom I have to get some job done. With my boss, I have to do certain jobs. However much I do, he may not be very happy about me. I had to deal with those things. But how did I deal with those things? With my peers, I always, I'm not really, demanding to them. I'll go to them and request. If they are busy, I'll ask them, can I help you in some way, because I see you very busy, right? I don't just see him as somebody who from whom I take my whatever due and come back from there, right? I will also try to find out, is there any way I can help you? With my boss, I don't see him as a boss. I try to understand what he needs before he tells me. I try to understand what he needs and go and give it to him, right? So that suppose if that boss is my father itself, how do I do with it? I don't wait for my father to remind me. I go to him and say, okay, do you need this? Do you need that? So that kind of affectionate, loving relationship has to be established. So meditation or your pranayama exercise has to necessarily make you think in that way when you are dealing with people in your office or in your home or on the street. Suppose when you are driving on the road, an auto rickshaw fellow cuts you off, right? How do you deal with him? Just imagine the situation. An auto rickshaw fellow is cutting you off and you have to apply a sudden brake, right? It has caused whatever trouble it has to cause to you. And then now you rush to the auto rickshaw fellow and pull him out of the auto rickshaw, or you just look into the auto rickshaw and suddenly just imagine that you realize that auto rickshaw driver is no other than your own brother. How do you react to him? Versus the auto rickshaw fellow being somebody else you don't know at all. So will your reaction not be going to be different for these two characters? One, if the auto rickshaw person is your own brother, two, the auto rickshaw person is somebody else whom you are not aware of any time before. So there is a qualitative difference in your reaction, right? Why do you not assume the rest of the people on the road are like your beloved brothers or father or your children? So once you apply that kind of approach, any kind of dealing will not be difficult for you. So when you are in meditation, you have to realize, when you come to your tranquil mind, you have to realize that everybody has to be respected for whatever their weaknesses are, whatever their strengths are, right? You have to respect them. You should not discard people with weaknesses. You should not be giving undue regard to people with strengths, right? Both are born with certain design, which is coming from their previous lives as well. That is a big subject in itself. And you have to deal with them when you have to deal with them in a very, very balanced manner. Suppose you have 3 children, right? Of whatever age, not all the 3 are same. One child may be very pleasant person, another child may be always complaining kind of person, right? How do you deal with them? You are not going to thrash your child who is always complaining and frustrating for you and giving a lot of care and love to the other child who is always very pleasant, right? You are going to be very equanimous to both of them in terms of your care and love and all those things. So why can't we do it for the rest of the people outside? Unless you approach people with that kind of attitude, your meditation is not going to be helpful in any way. It may be helpful to you during that half an hour or 1 hour of your time when you are sitting in meditation. Rest of the day, you are like the person who is not aware of any kind of meditation and all, right? So this kind of attitude has to be there. When you have that kind of attitude to the rest of the people, miraculously you will realize that things are happening for you. Most of the people in the management area think that unless they are tough and unless they are strict, right, their people will not be working for you. That's not true. If you are caring and loving and very considerate to your own people, be it your boss or be it your subordinates, then work environment will be excellent and things will start falling in place in a very, very positive way. And whatever you thought previously was not possible, and most of the times you will realize that it will be possible, because the way people will look at you and the people will look at the work given to them, that will be totally different, right? Unless you do that, you'll not be able to experience that. Until such time, it may be just a belief. And I suggest that if you are in a work environment, please give that kind of attitude towards your boss and your peers and your team members, and see how the results can be like, right? In my long, almost like 37 years of my experience, I never gave an opportunity to my boss to remind me about the work given to me. I would go to him a couple of days before, or at least 10% time earlier, saying that this is done. And occasionally I will also go to him and sit with him and try to understand what are his challenges, and if I can help him, right? So that kind of situation. And with my team members, I always try to tell him that I am always there to help them out, right? Once they have that kind of understanding, the work environment will be very, very fulfilling and very, very productive, right? And quite a few of my peers, sometimes they can be very tough. I would go to them and sit with them and try to figure out how I can help them out in a given situation. So you should be seen as a person who can always be depended upon by your boss, by your peers, by your team members. That should be the kind of attitude. The very purpose of spirituality, in which meditation is a part of, right? That purpose is about treating everybody around like the way you would treat yourself or your very loving brother or affectionate father. So that is one aspect. And the second thing, in terms of outside of spirituality and meditation, in your work environment, you may have so many challenges. You have to look at those things and realize what is causing that challenge, right? One of those challenges can be around your own skills, right? Most of the times I see in my office also, I had seen that somebody is given a job, a work, and he is not able to complete it for whatever reason, he will start cursing his boss. He has to realize if there is a skill issue, if my skill is not enough because of which I am not able to take care of that work, he has to improve the skill, right? So quite a few times we don't look at what is the problem in completing the work and then keep blaming either the boss or the organization or team members. When you develop the kind of attitude which I was talking about earlier, then only you will come to realizing these kind of things. And my sincere thanks to Pyramid Meditation channel for giving me this opportunity. Thank you very much.